This episode of The Payload is brought to you in partnership with Legion by Lenovo and Intel. Find out more about Legion by Lenovo on Facebook and Twitter at Legion by Lenovo. Enjoy the show? Support The Payload on Patreon for exclusive content, access to game nights and giveaways, and more. Head on over to patreon.com/Payload Podcast to find out how you can get involved. Join our Discord community, find new friends, review VODs, and discuss esports and strategy on our Payload Podcast Discord at discord.me/Payload Podcast.
The podcast for heroes in the world of Overwatch. This is The Payload.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 71 of The Payload. We're an Overwatch podcast from BlizzPro.com. Today is June 14th, 2017. From Denver, Colorado, I'm John Horstman. With me, of course, is, well, none other than the Mercy Queen herself, Rosh. Hey, Rosh.
Hi. This brings me back to the very, very, very first show that I was ever on when it was just you. It was just me. We kind of did like a whole episode on Mercy. So it's pretty cool to feel like we're going back to our roots. But I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for it to be us. I do miss Jimmy. And hopefully we'll see him here next week, however his schedule is. But I'm excited to do the show this week. It'll be a fun one.
Yeah, I miss Jimmy. It's cool, though, because this week the tables are going to be turned. We're going to be talking about Zarya this week. And so Rosh is going to be taking the helm for that one. And it's going to be fun. So, well, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about our weeks in Overwatch. Let's start there. What have you been up to? Besides playing The Sims.
if you aren't in our Discord, John did me the wonderful favor of cropping the fact that I was on The Sims 4 for like 9 hours yesterday and posting it in the memes channel. So if you haven't joined our Discord, you should definitely join it. You're missing out. But I haven't been playing after that double XP weekend. I think I kind of burnt myself out on playing quick play, and honestly, playing Ana and Zenyatta and Mercy, I'm kind of just burnt out, I think. So I've been taking a small break. I am excited to get into it. I posted in our Discord channel. So again, if you aren't there, this season I have like 9 accounts to do placements on. And while I'm doing the placements, as you know, you could be queued with anybody on any rank for the first, well, up to Diamond for the first 10 placements. So I'm going to be looking for people to duo queue placements with, just for fun. Viewers, listeners, anybody. It doesn't matter your skill, it doesn't matter your rating or what class you want to play. I want to make it a more fun season compared to last season where I just tried to climb and climb and climb at Grandmasters. So I do want to take it a key back in the serious note and just have fun, be a part of the community. So I'm excited to get into that with this season for Overwatch.
Awesome. I might take you up on some of those placements on my third account. So,
you have a third account?
I do.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Here at the Payload Podcast, where we have a accumulation of like 25 Overwatch accounts. That's so crazy. Okay. Okay, well, cool. Yeah.
It's okay. It's called Okay, It's Tripod.
Wait, no, it's not.
It is.
You're not joking? Oh,
I am not
gosh.
joking.
Yes, we have to then. It's almost like we have to get together and play then, because I have Okay, It's Smurf. It's funny because Rob actually wanted to do Okay, It's Rob for his Smurf. And so that would have been hilarious if it was Okay, It's Rosh, Okay, It's Tripod, Okay, It's Smurf, Okay, It's Rob. That's crazy. That's super funny. Yeah, we'll have to get together and do some placements then.
Yeah, cool. Well, awesome. That sounds like fun. Well, let's do it. Okay. I haven't played a whole lot this past week, and there's just been a lot going on with different things, and it's been a lot of like admin work, and so I've been wanting to play a lot really bad, and instead I've been like stuck on my other computer doing other things, and most of them are good things and fun things, but you know, it's just like work. So yeah. Yeah. So anyways, oh man, I'm just like, I'm sore. I've got like, I hung some art up in Studio 5 this week.
Oh yeah,
so
I can see the poster behind you.
you can see my One Punch Man poster.
Yeah.
It's maybe my new favorite anime of all time. So.
Although from this angle right here, the poster in the background, because of the lighting in the room, it actually just looks like a bunch of butterflies on the poster.
Oh, see,
yeah,
you have a different camera angle than
okay.
this stream, right? Because you're looking right at me.
Right. Yeah, you
It's
do
over
too.
here.
Yeah, okay.
It was intentional. That's actually one I got when I worked at Apple. Every employee at Apple got a huge poster of the iPhone 6S.
So are they
cool.
butterflies?
Are
they?
No, they're flowers.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't
lilies.
that crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, that's your little bit of well-met trivia this week, and let's jump into the news.
This week in Overwatch.
Tons going on this week, but not necessarily on the news side. Overwatch anniversary is done with. Horizon Lunar Colony drops on June 20th. That'll also come patch 1.12. We'll also have the Roadhog Reaper changes, the fixes to the Reinhardt hammer glitch, and some other bug fixes and things like that. But really, as far as news goes, that's really about it. Unless, Rosh, am I missing anything?
No, I think that's about it. And I think rightfully so, with the season having just started and them having released a new map and those changes on the PTR. I don't think we should have been expecting much else, especially with double XP and the anniversary ending. If we had heard much more, I would have been kind of surprised because of how fast paced it would have been. So minimal news, but I think rightfully so.
I totally agree. But there's a ton of esports news.
Yeah.
So we're going to go right to the next bumper. Overwatch Esports! Yes! That's right. Overwatch Esports going on this week.
Well,
and literally an hour before the show, the Canada and USA rosters were released, and they are, I don't want to say surprising because I don't think they're surprising, but there's some really interesting picks. So Team USA, we've got Jake from LG Evil, Sinatra, who is on, oh my God, why am I blanking? Selfless, thank you. Cool Matt 69, I have no idea anymore.
Fnatic.
Thank you.
I think Fnatic is his latest.
And then Fact Fiction, he's on one
FaZe.
of the, FaZe, right? So he's on the kind of pseudo half FaZe, half not
the
team.
The new FaZe. The FaZe 5.0, I think, is what we're at by now. So whatever they're considering themselves.
Raucous, who, this is the surprising one to me. Cool Matt 69 was kind of surprising, but Raucous was another surprise to me. And of course, Adam from C9. What do you think about the Raucous pick here? Have you like followed or heard much about Raucous?
I haven't, and I think that's why it's so surprising because it's not just you. I was kind of like, wait a minute.
Right.
What? Like, who did he play for again? Like, what's going on? So I kind of had to dive into that. But I mean, judging by the games that happened today, it seems to be a good comp. So, I mean, I know it's just like the preliminaries. They don't matter. It's just for fun. But I mean, they seem to vibe well, at least on the fun aspects. I'm looking forward to how far Team USA goes this year.
Yeah. On like individual skill, this is a pretty stacked team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're missing some notables. Like, I think people were really expecting like Seagull to get chosen. And I'm trying to think of some other kind of big ones. Like, some people wanted like Raksu and like Calvin, but those are kind of streamers anyways. But overall, like, I can't think of a, more, there's no people on this team except for Sinatra who have like any sort of at least rumor of being not really a team player. And I think when you're
other than Sinatra.
And even then, like, I haven't heard things necessarily about Sinatra's a bad teammate. He's just got some
he's just got that 17-year-old angst.
Tactics.
Sinatra's a toxic guy, but I think it's just his age pertaining to that. I don't think that when he gets older, he'll still be DeFran Jr., but I've never heard anything about his team plays. CoolMatt69 was kind of like my surprise pick other than Raucus, but Raucus is more of, I don't even remember who this guy is. How did he get in here? But CoolMatt, I know who he is. But the thing with CoolMatt is he's really infamous for his diva plays. So it's kind of like head tilting that you want to pick someone that is really only good with diva, but then again, you kind of have to think about it. Diva is such a clutch pick this season, and if you watch the prelims, if you can shut down a soldier, which is exactly what they did for Surefour on Canada today. Canada, you kind of really don't have a lot to go because right now nano boosted soldier is incredibly meta. So if you shut that down, it's great. So Matt's been a vital pick to this team. So I'm super excited to see how far his diva goes with them.
I want to talk more about the USA roster, but for everybody waiting in anticipation, what's going on with Canada, Rosh?
Well, from Team Canada, we have Rolf over from C9. We also have XQC, who is with Yikes right now.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes, he is.
We have Agilities from Immortals. We also have Surefour from C9. We have RNG's Mangachu, and we have Joe Meister over from FaZe. So it's kind of funny, these two teams going against each other because they share so many of the same like teammates. Like you have C9 teams on Canada and USA. You have FaZe on both teams. I guess it just goes to show who the really hot teams are in like Apex and the Overwatch competitions and tournaments, because you're seeing these picks from those teams in the rosters for USA and Canada. So it's pretty cool.
Well, and I think another thing too is it also shows which teams are willing to let their players play in both Contenders and Overwatch World Cup, because it's not, I mean, we saw with TakeOver 2 last week, and then going into Contenders, like it is really hard on these players to be playing in multiple tournaments, especially high stake ones at once from multiple regions with high ping. And even just for this one event, which is at E3, you know, getting the players from TakeOver back here. Some of these players were playing in the Overwatch Contenders on the EU side because their teams are, you know, EU based. And so it's interesting to see. And like, I'm glad to see Cloud9. I'm glad to see FaZe represented. And it's, you know, great to see LG Evil, Renegades, but it's also kind of like you look and you see some of those rosters that there's nobody from there. And you can tell that it's the org saying, nah, bro. You're doing Overwatch
You need
Contenders.
to slow down,
We're going for that Overwatch League spot or something like that, where it's like, we want you fresh for Contenders or whatever that is. Something that I think is like the ace in the hole for the US team, and I was thinking about this, has got to be Jake for me. Jake is like the team captain of LG Evil. He's being at least touted as the captain for Team USA. And I think that's why they felt okay with bringing in Sinatra. Yes, he has an attitude problem. I don't want to say an attitude problem because that's not it. Yes, he's got some maturing to do.
There we go.
Jake is, at least from everything that I've seen, is a really mature and focused dude who I think can take him and rein Sinatra in a little bit. I think we might see Sinatra play some of his most effective games across from Jake for multiple reasons.
And also coming from DeFran's release and probation and all of that, Sinatra is probably taking a step back and being like, oh, okay, like this could happen. I'm a 17-year-old getting paid to play video games. Maybe I should try and be a little bit mature. And then being led by Jake. I think it's just a combination of everything. He's an amazing DPS. His tracer is godlike. So it'll be really cool to see how far he can go.
Great Zarya too.
Yeah, an amazing Zarya. He gets his charge so incredibly fast. But it'll
they say KickedTripod like as far as I'm sorry.
I'll
stop interrupting you.
But it'll be cool to see how far he can go, and maybe if he'll even improve under Jake's guidance. So I'm just really excited for this year's Overwatch Cup.
That's my side bet, as I think we're going to see a lot of amazing things from Sinatra, and I hope that the coaches and players realize and attribute that a lot to Jake's mentorship, because that's what it looks like going into it, is how it could play out. But I'm surprised Selfless let Sinatra come at all after losing to Fran.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, so Selfless just signed Carpe and Midnight to fill these gaps this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised at all. Like, yeah, they had to pick somebody up to try to fill DeFran's shoes, but they didn't have to let, I don't know their contracts, but seemingly they didn't have to let Sinatra go and play. So I think that's pretty interesting to see. In my opinion, we were talking about this in chat right before the show. And you look at the DPS duo of Jake and Sinatra, and you put it across from Surefour and Agilities, and that's about as good as it gets, right? Like that feels.
And it's so crazy because honestly, if I take a step, if I'm like, Agilities and Surefour or Sinatra and Jake, I want to go with Agilities and Surefour because Agilities is just so crazy. So maybe that just shows how much like Jake is really bringing this group together, especially in working with Sinatra. So it's really cool. They've made so many improvements, both on roster for Team USA compared to last year, and the rules and regulations for putting together the roster. So obviously the team organizers who were voted on to Team US, I can't remember the exact name, but like Poke was the team organizer for Canada. Obviously they saw something with Sinatra and the team. So because you don't just get voted on and then are assured that spot, you also have to commit to the team and vibe well, because there's also another step to creating this team. So obviously they saw something there, and I'm really excited to see the future matches. If they're anything like today's match was, I don't think that we'll necessarily see an offensive Bastion when the matches count for real. Right. But I'm still excited. It'll be really good games this year.
Well, and we were talking about this, and like I think the big differentiator between these two squads has to be the tanks. In this particular, I was going through all the Canadian players on Wikipedia of like who else could play, tank, because on Canada you've got Mangachu and XQC obviously a tank player, but Mangachu not really. He's a Pharah main, and he plays some other DPS characters, but he plays a Pharah mainly, and he's on Diva right now. And I looked in, and I'm surprised to see, like, honestly, I thought maybe we'll see Chayne. Maybe we would see even like Chance, who's obviously coaching right now, but Canada does not have a lot of tank support. Yeah. And thankfully it's a triple DPS meta. But that was for me the big differentiator in these matches is you could definitely tell that Fact Fiction and CoolMat69 were much
like
more at home at tank and outplayed and outmaneuvered Team Canada's tanks.
Yeah, it was looking at Team Canada going forward will be interesting because today, I think on the first match, they had Agilities on Mercy. And it was kind of just like Team Canada, like, got together. They obviously saw something when they were like practicing to come up with this team, but like I can't see what they saw right now because you have Agilities, this amazing Genji playing Mercy.
I don't think any of them, at least the first 2 or 3 maps, I don't think anybody played Genji.
Yeah. So I think that they're kind of struggling a little bit. And again,
it's
maybe they're trying to come out. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe they're just like lowballing the expectations so that they come into their next match and they're like, you thought Agility is going to play pharmacy with Mangachu? Yeah, here's his Genji. And they just, 3-0 the other team. So who knows? Maybe they obviously saw something. So pay attention to Team Canada. We'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I will say the one thing that I think puts these 2 rosters at a distinct disadvantage is I think over on the EU side, as these teams start to get announced, we're going to start seeing like Rogue representing France.
Yeah.
And not only are they amazing individual players, but Rogue is one of the best players teams in Overwatch right now.
And they've been together for so long now that the synergy.
For so long. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, it's Selfless Gaming representing USA or LG Evil representing USA. It's a lot of different things. And that's one of the advantages of having a roster centered around country of origin. But we'll just have to see going forward. In the end, USA roster looks good. I like it feels weird anytime you see USA and you don't see somebody like Seagull. And if you go through the player list of all the different US players, there's a lot of excellent players, but Jason Kaplan and some of the other guys who sat down and chose these teams through tryouts, you can tell it was very intentional, not just around individual skill, but ability to I guess they're reducing as much potential friction as possible. There's not a lot of disagreeable personalities on these teams. And I would say the same for Canada. So that literally just broke an hour ago. So it's not like we've been researching this for days and this is the best.
No, we just had a lot to say about it, which I guess is cool though, because I mean, we're just been paying attention to so much history. Yeah, there's just so much even though the rosters were just announced, we've been paying attention to all of these people on their individual teams. And it's cool to wrap it all up into something that was just announced an hour ago and talk about it for 20 minutes. So I'm excited.
And the news doesn't stop there. So we also have a brand new league called the Overwatch Open Division. It is the development league for the Overwatch Contenders, which is the development league for Overwatch League. So if you follow hockey or baseball, very similar types of formats in the sense that you almost have minor league and minor league. And it's pretty interesting. So how the Overwatch Open Divisions work is just like Overwatch Contenders, starting with Season 1. It's only open to Masters Plus players. You create your team. You play in a regular season. As long as you play all of your games, you actually get $10 Battle.net balance. So you actually get paid. Look at you, all-star. You little all-star, you buying your 5 Hearthstone packs. I think the winner of the league gets $50 Battle.net balance or something like that. It's not huge, at least for the season. I don't think that's the end of season playoffs. Things, but just for competing and playing, you get that. You do well, and then you basically the teams that do well get promoted into the Overwatch Contenders League, and then obviously from there, players who do well have greater visibility, at least to the official Overwatch leagues. The official rules will be in the show notes. It's run through ESL for the matchmaking and tournament brackets and stuff. And so obviously ESL has done great work for a long time. Rosh, you're eligible for this. Are you going in?
Yeah, it's cool, but people have always asked me oh, how do you ever see yourself playing on a team? And as a one-trick, maybe 0.75 trick Mercy main, because I'm starting to really get into Ana, and my Ana's getting pretty good. I don't don't know. I don't think I'd be a good teammate. So I it's cool to know that I could be in this. Like, I could get a team. I could qualify for this. That's a really cool aspect. And I think that it'll be really exciting for the people out there that, you know, want to get into esports. Like, this is a really cool opportunity for you. And the fact that Overwatch has opened it up for the freaking Overwatch contenders, that's awesome. Like, that's huge news. Not for me, but for all of the kids out there that are trying to, you know, get out of going to college because they want to become a professional video game player. That's huge for you. So I'm excited. It's great news that they're making it more, I don't know, user-friendly to get in. You don't have to be a huge name. You can just prove your skill and have more visibility for it. So it's cool to see that, and that Blizzard is showing that they want this to be an actual realistic thing.
It's an accessible and obvious path, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is really important, that as you, well, honestly, not even important, but something that's been missing from esports in general is it's not just about how good you are in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
It's who you know, the tournaments you can make it to, the amount of time you can dedicate to the game. And in this case, it's like, if you're really skilled, and you can get into that top, you know, 1% of players, you've got an avenue to work towards. And I think that in itself is amazing. I am, you know, about 300 points away from being able to qualify for hopefully next season. I would love to be a part of a Overwatch Open Division team and just see what that looks like and, you know, how that works. And so, I think it's really cool. We'll find more as things go on. But Overwatch Contenders, eventually, this season 0 of Overwatch Contenders, minus the prize pool, sounds like pretty similarly of what the Overwatch Open Division will look like in the sense of qualifications and things like that going forward.
I agree.
Obviously, it's not a tournament, though. It's a season. It sounds like there's I think it's 7 weeks of games or 8 weeks. And so, is that a Payload shirt that you're wearing right now?
That is a Payload shirt. It is. I can't see it because of my mic, but hey, it is.
If you want to look as good as Rosh does, head on over to store.blizzpro.com. Get yourself a Payload shirt. It's the only chance you have. All right. So Overwatch Contenders. Man, this... have you been watching the roster changes going on this week?
I don't even think it's possible to see all of them. Like, I could devote all week, and I don't know how we're going to recap this and still manage to make this show about an hour and 15 minutes because it just seems like a whole mess. I don't understand. Like, we talked about this a couple of months ago that teams were constantly swapping their rosters, and we thought that it would kind of really slow down when Overwatch League came out, and it doesn't seem to have slowed its pace at all. We have so many roster swaps this week. And I don't know. It just seems kind of iffy. I feel like at this point you shouldn't still be swapping your roster around. You should be really focusing on, you know, pinning down the group that you want to and playing with each other, because you can have a group that may not be good as these 6 individuals, but if they've played together and formed that synergy and know how to Reinhardt combo or Zarya combo or anything like that, you're going to go infinitely further than this group of 6 individually further skilled people that haven't played together. So it kind of boggles me that we're still seeing that many changes.
Yeah, and I'm trying to decide if it's like, oh, rosters are really trying to figure out what the, you know, and esports teams are trying to get poised for Overwatch League, or if it's, you know, this is the biggest and only tournament that we have for Overwatch that I know of.
Yeah.
And they're just like, might as well we just need people, bring them in. Yes. You know, we need it. And so we're going to have to see. We're going to try to run down these changes as eloquently as possible because there's a lot of them, but it also is going forward. And I'm going to use this moment to talk to the people who listen and watch the show. We want this to be a really accessible podcast where every week you can tune in and you get caught up on the news and you learn something cool that you may not have had before. But we also really are invested personally in the esports scene, not because Or I guess mainly because it's the future of Overwatch. The success of Overwatch, honestly, this podcast kind of hinges on its ability to succeed as an esport.
Yeah.
And we feel like we have a responsibility to help, push that gently along. And so I get it. And everyone's favorite thing isn't esports about this show. The wonderful thing about podcasts, unless you're tuning in live, is you can just kind of fast forward a little bit. But we are really dedicated to the esports scene, and you're going to be seeing that quite a bit. So let's go through some of these roster changes because there's a lot of them. So first, Immortals. So Immortals signed Envy in the 7th person slot. They've got a full team of 6, but a lot of teams right now are picking up 7th members because the meta changes. And rather than trying to, at least in my opinion,
form those players into that specific building
the
block.
meta style.
Yeah.
Bench
you can
'em.
just swap out the puzzle pieces. Yeah.
So Envy is a flex DPS from Rhino's Gaming Wings. They didn't perform well in Apex. They disbanded this last week, and Immortals saw this as an opportunity to pick up that flex DPS roles. The nice thing about this pickup too is xYKK, who is actually the coach for Immortals, was formerly the coach of Rhino's Gaming Wings. So there's some relatability there. It's not totally random. And I'm guessing xYKK probably had something to say about that.
Yeah, probably a little bit. One thing that this has me question and kind of worry a little is that Immortals is an NA roster. Okay, but if you look at their NA roster, it's consisted of 9 people, including the 6 original teammates, the 1 substitute, the coach, and the manager.
Right.
I think 5 out of those 9 people are from Korea. And so this kind of makes me want to take a step back for this NA roster. Over half of the team is from Korea. So League of Legends has this, quote unquote, I hate saying it because it feels weird to to identify people as imports because they're people. Like, you don't just import people from a different country. But the terminology for it is they have rules limiting the imports for their American teams, how you have to live in NA for so many years before you could play for a team, et cetera, et cetera. And I know not all of the rules are great. Like, I think it's a 2-year rule, and I think that that's too much. But at the same time, this kind of opens the question, should Overwatch maybe set up some type of standard so that these NA teams don't become 60% like Korean players or anything like that? And I understand it should be a combination of people from around the world, and it shouldn't matter which nationality or where your team comes from. But I just feel like at some point, are we going to see full NA teams full of Korean rosters? Because if you just look at the Overwatch Cup from last year, you think that that's okay?
Not for
saying
the
that it's
Overwatch
wrong.
World
Like, you should
Cup.
totally
No. Overwatch World Cup, you should have nationally based players. But for Overwatch League, here's the thing. The most American sport is baseball. Would you agree? The most American team, as far as like when the world looks at baseball, they see America. When they think of a team, they think of the New York Yankees, right? Yeah. Is that at least fair for an analogy?
Could be fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
50% of the New York Yankees last year were not from the United States.
But what is one of the biggest factors that people dislike when someone says, I just like the Yankees? What are the reasons? 1, either they're a rival,
they're paid to win.
But 2, because they're they just import all of their talent, and they don't and a lot of people dislike that. So I'm not saying that it's wrong.
I don't think it's import.
So import is using,
they pay a lot of Americans, but they pay the most for the best talent that they can buy. And I'm for that. Jamerson said it on Twitter. Competition greater than nationality. And I am 100%
and I agree.
In agreement with that.
I'm not saying that an NA team has to necessarily be full of people that are be full of NA talents. Okay, Shadow gave me a great word, talent. I love that word so much more than people because I don't like talking about trading people here. But I just feel like I don't know. Like an NA team full of non-NA talent seems a little weird. I don't know.
Maybe
it's a hard.
The
I think
wrong
maybe
terminology is NA team.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe we should stop putting Immortals as an NA team.
Like Cloud9, they're like,
Overwatch
that's a US team.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's a good point. Yeah, maybe we should, because I don't know. It just seems weird looking at the Immortals roster. There. Yeah, it's weird looking at the Immortals roster. Has the USA flag next to it, but the whole team has Korean flags. Which again, I have no problem. Please do not send us emails about how I'm anti-Korean. Please, please, please. I have no problem.
Send racist emails, please. No, just kidding.
Totally went away. I'm totally for it. I think it increases the skill cap of the games. It increases the competitiveness of the games. So maybe, yeah, exactly what you said. Maybe we should look at taking away the country biasness of these teams instead of looking at Immortals as a NA team.
It's going to be tough.
It just seems
it's going to be tough because
the
league is going to be regionally based anyways.
Yeah.
So you're not going to look at the what was it? The LA All-Stars or whatever. Whatever. Anyway, the LA All-Stars is what we'll call one of the Overwatch League teams with Crusher 99 on them. And you're going to say, oh, that they're based in LA. But just like when I think of the Minnesota Vikings, I don't think all the players are from Minnesota. And I think people can get past that. But I do think, to your point, if it becomes that the Overwatch League is, filled with players of a single nationality of anything, like one of the ways that a lot of like how football got around it a little bit was salary cap. With a salary cap, it doesn't just mean that, the Overwatch League team backed by the Kraft family can buy the 6 best players in the world, 4 of them being Korean, because statistically that's probably what it's like. So, but instead it means that they have to, find the best talent from that.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that there needs to be a cap on how many Koreans you can have on a North American team. I'm not saying that, but I mean, at some point, should that question rise where there might be some legalities or some restrictions or some boundaries that Blizzard puts into place for their teams. Like, I don't know. I'm not one to, I've never looked into, these rules. I don't
think it'll happen with that, though. Like,
but
I don't think
it just brings up the question, will that ever possibly be a thing that Overwatch needs to look at?
I think the idea with esports right now, and to the detriment of topics like this, the idea with esports is funneling as much money into it as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think that they would try to cap that or change that.
Yeah, you're right. So maybe, because you don't want to limit that at all. Yeah.
But like down the road, I think that's something that might happen. Wow, we went down a tangent hole.
I know.
Okay, so you guys get paid. The star-studded, unbacked team they're NA, right? They got Smex and Chayne. Beast Halo left for Tempo Storm. Space left for Yikes. And, this is, they're going to be, Smex is going to be filling that tank role. Chayne is going to be filling that flex role. I mean, seems like solid pickups. It feels bad, I would feel like, we saw this with Cyclowns. We're seeing this now with you guys get paid. Their talent is getting recognized. Yeah. And they're just
I hope it doesn't
apart.
Yeah.
Like
instead of picking up the whole team because they're unbacked, these players are like, oh, contract with, all of these bonuses. See ya. And then going to other teams. So I really wish the best of luck to you guys get paid. I've been following them for a couple of months now. And I was really excited to see their come up in the future. So I hope that they're still able to put it together and come up with some victories and make themselves known.
Yeah. So I think those are adequate pickups, but man, it really sucks to have those types of changes in the middle of a tournament like this. So we also have Cyclowns picking up Epzz and lateks. They're on trial at least. So they're like, we're trialing these players. Selfless adds Carpe and Midnight. Carpe will be replacing DeFran. He's a hit scan player, so he mostly played Genji, but he's got a lot of time on McCree and Soldier, so you'll probably see him filling that role. And Midnight, he's the former flex player for Rise Nation. He specialized in Zarya and Diva, and you've also seen him playing some 76 recently. So, I think this pickup is really interesting and really important for these group stages coming up, because in Group A you have both it's FaZe, Selfless Gaming, CLG, and Team Liquid, and Selfless Gaming seated in the second slot in Group A. Mm-hmm. Without DeFran and without Sinatra, they don't look like a second tier team or a first tier team. They were once rated as the 9th best team in the world by Over.GG, and now you're looking at that roster and saying, I don't know.
Maybe not anymore.
Is Carpe and Midnight, are these players enough of an equalizer to deserve that second spot and get out of groups?
I think the question isn't, are they enough of an equalizer? I think the question is, who is left to become a better equalizer? Because at this point, all of these teams are holding on to their players. They want to really compete in this competition. They're really solid with their team. So if not Carpe and Midnight, who else could they have snagged? I think that at the point of the tournament that we're in, I think those are probably two of the best players that you could have gotten. Do I think that they equalize the loss of DeFran and Sinatra? No, I think that DeFran and Sinatra were definitely the best bet for Selfless, but as it is, that's just not possible anymore. So I think it is one of the best moves that they could have done. Just at this point in the tournament, I don't really think that they had many other options.
Sure. I think that makes sense. So I'm going to go through these last pickups because I don't think that they're as big of a deal. But GamersOrigin did pick up xYKK, and I'm hesitant to say this, but DixxyDix. So so that's all the big changes that have gone on this week. And I'm like, I feel like I should go refresh the competitive Overwatch subreddit and over.gg and Winston's Lab
just to make sure
it didn't change in the last 10 minutes, because that's how quickly it's changed. But let's move and shift over a little bit into the brackets for Overwatch Contenders. So those were released. So Group A, we already discussed, is FaZe Clan, Selfless Gaming, CLG, and Team Liquid. Mm-hmm. I feel like even though there's some really good teams here, I think it's FaZe is the easy favorite in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of between, I think CLG is good enough to beat this kind of ripped apart Selfless Gaming roster. And I honestly agree. I think that CLG should probably take it. Worthy of note, though, Team Liquid shouldn't win this groups, but they've actually been close with CLG and Selfless in the past. They've at least taken a map off of each of them in the last month, but they're so
Team Liquid definitely has a lot of room to grow. They're probably one of the teams that has the highest skill cap in the tournament. So if they can get their act together, I definitely think that they could take CLG and they could overcome and take that Selfless, just because they've been so close before. So I definitely think that maybe with the changes to Selfless now, that Team Liquid will be able to come even closer to beating them, if not beating them. But I think that CLG will still come out on top. But yeah, FaZe is definitely, if I had to go with one team, it's definitely FaZe.
And two teams are going to be coming out of this group. So like I said, I think that first spot is a lock. Now, interesting to note, Team Liquid, because I'm glad you brought that up. They've beat LG Evil and Tempo Storm in the last month. They've beat really great teams, but they've also lost to CLG and FaZe during monthly melee and contenders. So it's like they can beat teams that are on par with CLG and FaZe Clan, but at the same time they haven't. And I don't see that. If anything, it's a neck and neck race between Selfless and CLG for me. And we'll just kind of have to see.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Group B is LG Evil. You guys get paid. Toronto Esports and Envision Esports. Again, I think
the favorite there is LG Evil. I think that you guys get paid is a second. And then it's a toss-up between Toronto and Envision. But I think that one's pretty simple to see. LG Evil comes out on top instead of you guys get paid, in my opinion.
Toronto Esports, a lot of people are really hyped up, and they have a good roster. But
yeah, that's true.
Their route to get into this has been they lost to CLG, Renegades, Immortals, and Virtue. The only teams that note that they really beat are Hollywood Hammers and Team Liquid. Team Liquid obviously being incredibly inconsistent.
But that's the new Hollywood Hammers.
And that's,
new
formerly
Hammers.
the Chads, right?
So
there's not enough info here.
Yeah.
And I personally am not a good enough analyst yet to make a firm showing, but there was a lot of people really hyped up on Toronto Esports. And Envision Esports, they lost. They basically just barely squeaked by Team Liquid. Like, I don't see them getting out of groups.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
You could make an argument that Toronto Esports might surprise, but again, I think LG Evil and you guys get paid.
I think those are
pretty there. Man.
Group C is hard.
Group C is rough. This is where things start to get really nuts.
Really. Yeah, Group C. So Group C comprises of the infamous group F Energy FE. It also comprises of Yikes, Immortals, and Tempo Storm. And I think that this is probably the harder group, the hardest group. You have arguments for Group D because they have such Slayer
I would say
teams
Group D,
in there.
Yeah.
But with the way that these teams in Group C have played, I think that they have a lot to play for. And I think that this will be one of the best. Look at Immortals. They have so much riding on this. They did such an amazing job that they want to come back and they want to really cement themselves as one of the top teams. You have Yikes, who has the power driven by XQC. And if you've ever listened to XQC or watched him stream, you know that he wants to win and he will do anything to make his team win. And then you have FNRG FE, who kind of want to throw their middle fingers to the air and say, haha. Yeah, like, this is what you guys threw away. We're here. We're better. We beat Energy. Like, we're here to cement ourselves, even though you guys didn't see us in your future. So, and then you have Tempo Storm. So I think that Tempo Storm probably is one of the weaker teams there, but I think that it's going to be an FNRG FE and Immortals. I think that's it. I think that's it. I really want to say Yikes, but I think it's going to come down to Immortals. I think they're going to beat them out.
So if I had to rate these, like, I honestly would say Immortals might actually be able to walk out in the top spot. They very well could do that. Honestly, I think Yikes might be able to be FNRG FE. I really do. Between the time that they've played together and what they've done. But Tempo Storm, I mean, they added Beast Halo. They've made some changes. So they're definitely a better roster than they were a few weeks ago, but they're also pretty new. So we'll have to see.
Pretty new.
I'm going to go ahead and say Immortals and Yikes come out of this one. I think FNRG, FE, while they are an amazing team and had an amazing run, I don't think that they have the talent. They have the talent. I don't think they have the depth and experience to get out of
do we know how the matches go yet for each group? Like, do we know who's playing who and when?
Isn't it round robin?
The first and the third seed play first, and then the second and the fourth seed in each group plays. Do we know a schedule yet?
No,
because it depends. They might not even like it.
I thought it was.
It just
round
really depends
robin.
on how the matches
Everyone
go.
Plays,
maybe it is.
Plays once or twice. Damn it! Now we're gonna have to.
Yeah, that might be it. I've sent us down another rabbit hole.
Each group will compete in its own double round robin fixture.
Okay.
So they play each twice. Okay, good. You made me doubt myself. Chayne, never doubt yourself. You're strong. You've worked hard.
So then there should be equal. Right? Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be really good matches. I think that arguably people can say that Group D is the hardest. Yeah, we're going to just skip right on over that. I think that these will be the closest matches out of all 4 groups. I think that these will be the closest, most nail-biting matches for who comes out on top.
Well, that brings us to Group D. In my opinion, the group of death here. Because so you've got Kingarna, who has done incredibly well in the past month. You've got Renegades, which again, since was it Pit? It was either Pit or Carbon series. Like they really kind of came out of the woodwork and have played.
Well, I definitely think that has to help with Farah being increased in gameplay and her strength. So that definitely doesn't help Renegades because Renegades has Mangachu, who is arguably one of the top Farahs in the league. So I definitely think that that did help.
Cloud9 is actually 9th here. So, and this is a part because Cloud9 got a bye essentially through the entire first week of of the qualification brackets. And they're just like, cool, we're just going to give you the 9th seed into this, which really makes Group D a giant cluster. Because it's, Cloud9, especially after their performance at TakeOver 2, definitely shouldn't be 3rd in a group, maybe 1st or 2nd in a group. It doesn't really matter a whole lot.
So yeah, it kind of threw the seeding off.
Round robin, but it throws the seeding off. And Jamerson
where it
on
looks
Twitter,
like it should be a 3rd tier team, but really they're a 1st or 2nd tier team.
Yeah, you've got Toronto Esports, CLG, who they're 3rd tier teams, but then you've got Immortals and Cloud9, who
which don't seem like they should be.
Probably not. And again, this is probably one of the flaws of these single elimination best of 3. 500 team brackets to qualify to get there, even though most of these teams did get priority seeding into them. It's not, it's kind of weird to see. Like, I think C9 definitely comes out of this, but honestly, they're all
who else?
I
think it's Kingarna. Honestly, I think it's Kingarna and Cloud9 that come out on top of this group. I think that Renegades will put up a huge show, especially against Cloud9. I think that Cloud9 and Renegades games will be extremely fun to watch and extremely close. But I think that Cloud9 comes on. All biasness for my Cloud9 being my favorite team aside, I think that they do come out on top.
Wait, you like Cloud9? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Interesting. I would say Cloud9 and Renegades. I'm going to pick Renegades there. So. Whew. That's just the NA half. We still have the EU half. I don't think we're going to go through group by group because number one, there's a lot of Group A is EU United, who obviously we've heard of, but then you've got Bazooka Puppies, Team Expert, Esperati. Yeah. There's, I'm like, they sound like fun, good teams. Group B is one that I do kind of want to touch on because it's Misfits, Laser Kittens, Ninjas with Attitudes, and Team Esports Cyber Athletes.
That's one thing that EO wins is the names of their teams.
Yeah. Well, the Bazooka Puppies logo too, so good.
Yeah, it's just the best.
But I mean, again here, Misfits, clear favorite. They've got a lot to prove from TakeOver 2, but I think that their performance the last 2 weekends or 2 weekends ago has really cemented, or was it last weekend? Anyways, their performance has really cemented them. That TakeOver 2 is kind of a fluke, and I think that they're getting back into that groove.
Yeah, I agree.
Group C, again, it's like Ninjas in Pajamas placed 13th.
That's the only group.
Yeah. Another one, there's lots of ninjas. You've got Team Singularity Ninjas, Vivi's Adventures, GamersOrigin, and Ninjas in Pajamas. And believe it or not, I think GamersOrigins and maybe NIP actually come out of that group. Idea. I think that the 3rd and 4th team might come out of that one. And then Group D, Movie Star Riders, 1, 2, 3, Cyclowns, and Alpha Squad. I think again, like 1, 2, 3. How did they get there? I don't really know. But Cyclowns and Movie Star Writers are like, I think like this bracket.
Movie Star
feels
Writers
a lot,
is your new fan favorite, isn't it? Isn't that like the new team that you've been paying attention? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Movie Star Writers. I think mainly I'm a fan of Siwoosh because he's an amazing Genji. Really, really highlighted that, but also, I mean, they honestly though they have such a good roster when you look at it. Logic's.
I knew when I asked, I was like, I'm going to ask DPS. This, and he's going to want to get into everything about this team.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But I think they've got a really good roster. I think they had a great showing on Takeover 2, and I don't see a reason why it stops at Group D. Cyclowns, on the other hand, who knows? Anyways, that's going on. We're going to have these groups play out this weekend over at twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders. There it is.
And honestly, for people who have stopped watching tournaments or anything like that, these are good. These games are good. I enjoy these contender tourneys, this contenders tournament, more than I've enjoyed Apex. The production has gone miles better. The games are so good. The seating, just everything about it. So if you have maybe kind of slacked off on wanting to watch these Overwatch tournaments because they haven't been interesting, try and tune in this weekend for these games. They're really good. We love to talk about it here at the Payload Podcast, and it's really cool. Again, here's the Discord ad, but joining us in Discord and talking about the games, we all have a lot of fun, commentating the games together. So make sure you check out this tournament. Give it a second chance. I honestly probably the most fun tournament I've watched in a long time.
I totally agree. I feel a lot more invested. Apex,
I agree.
I might feel more invested if there was more teams involved that like I cared about, but having so many teams with names I can't pronounce and languages I can't understand, this tournament, it's really hard to connect.
Yeah. And then with this tournament, it's like every new game, it's like, okay, well, I just watched 2 amazing teams. There's no way that 2 more teams that I'm invested in watching are going to play. And then it comes on and you're like, oh, wow, I actually really want them to watch. Let me spend my entire day watching this. So yeah, check it out. Free up your schedule. It'll be worth it, I promise.
Totally. Really quick, we got a few dev posts that we want to run through. Jeff Kaplan did say punishment for manipulating your MMR or SSR or SR higher or lower are about to increase dramatically. So more lever penalties, more thrower penalties, turned up to 11. That's coming on. There was a bug with misaligned bullet paths on the PTR, and I think maybe even on live, and they're going to be reverting the changes till they figure that out. That's been acknowledged, and again, Reinhardt's hammer is going to be fixed as well. But we're going to talk about Zarya this week in kind of a highlight of a different hero, because you know what? We like to switch it up here, so let's go ahead and do that.
Faster than sight. So predictable.
Yeah, this week on the Payload, we really wanted to get into the nitty and gritty about Zarya because we have the infamous Zarya player, KickedTripod, on the show. Drum roll, please. John has been mating Zarya for a full season with almost 200 hours on her in total. He's piloted her mostly solo queuing to 3300 SR. You won't get pro tips, but there is a lot of experience that can be shared. So, John, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I've been a long-time listener of the show. I think you guys do great work.
We're so happy to have you here. Let's get started with what kind of player you think Zarya is.
Oh, this one's really cool because, there are tanks that have obvious places, like Reinhardt, right? It's like he's there to stand there, put his shield down, protect his team. I would say like Winston, kind of the same thing. Is there to be mobile, provide those shields to protect himself, teammates, and is up close in combat. Zarya is a really dynamic damage dealing tank is how I think of her. She's got the lowest health pool. She's got 400 health, but her bubbles have 200 health apiece.
And they're game changing. Like totally a Roadhog hook. It stops the Roadhog. It removes an on-a-nade. So they're huge.
removes an on-age, removes a Zen orb. Even though it's only 200 health, it absorbs all splash damage. So if you get a Tracer Bomb or you get a Diva ultimate, like you just bubble up and boom, free 40 energy and you didn't lose a single point of health. It's the dumbest thing ever. So it's really interesting from that perspective, but I think of her as a damage dealing tank.
That's what it kind of is, because when you get a fully charged Zarya, I mean, it's crazy. When I die, I know as a support, if Zarya looks at me and instantly die, I'm like, man, who the heck charges that Zarya up? And I'm so frustrated because it's like, it seems like one of the simplest things to do, not hit a target that Zarya bubbled. But it's just once she gets her energy up, it's like a cannonball. It's so hard to not die to a Zarya when she's energied up. So she's a crazy tank. So you've kind of talked about her bubbling and her health pool and stopping, like preventing on-and-aids, the tracers and stuff. You talked a little bit about positioning, how Reinhardt's are, up towards the front and a monkey is very close in combat and then jumping back out and stuff like that. What kind of positioning do you do with Zarya? Like, what are your main focuses on when you're going into a match and you're really trying to focus on your positioning?
So Zarya is, I think of her at least dynamically as far as positioning goes. One of the key things that we haven't talked about Zarya yet is her energy. And basically her bubbles, well, yes, they block damage. They also give her additional energy. Every additional energy is an additional percentage point of damage that she does. So at 0 energy, her primary fire does 45. At 0 energy, her secondary fire does 90. Sorry, other way around. 90 damage per second. And the beam is done in damage per second. And then the alternate fires per click. So 45 per click. But that scales drastically. That means that if she's fully charged, you're doing 180 damage per second. Count for a second really quick and realize that just killed every 150 health hero, and most 200 health heroes are near death or dead. It melts. It absolutely melts. But positioning for Zarya is a lot along the lines of the amount of energy that you have.
Okay. That makes
sense. I was getting there, but I think of Zarya as one of the most key parts of playing her well is knowing when to be aggressive and knowing when to be passive. It's based both off of your team composition as well as your energy level, and you've got to really be aware of that. So for me, like positioning is relatively straightforward, except in one instance, and that is when you don't have another contesting tank. So, and I think of this purely in payload and hybrid maps. If you have like a Reinhardt or a Roadhog, these types of heroes that are generally, trying to hold the point or at least be a contesting force, you generally just play behind them, right? And it makes a lot of sense. Orisa's kind of the same, except in gold, where every Orisa sets up way off the points and just sits like, I'm a bastion, look at me. Yeah. That's gold problems. Those tanks are contesting, but when you have a Winston or a Diva, all of a sudden, you have to be the contesting tank. And that's really difficult. Your positioning has to be on point. You have to know where your healers are at any time. You have to be really selfish with your bubbles. And so that ends up kind of being the thing that makes it most dynamic, as well as the amount of energy you have also makes a factor into where you are.
And that brought up, because I've been playing this game for a long time. You and I have both been playing this game for a long time. And I really focus on paying attention to when enemies ult. But now that you've brought that up, I've always, paid attention to, this Zarya is playing really forward. She's probably going to ult. It's been long enough since she's had that. But I never made the second step to think, how can I tell she has high energy? But you just brought up that you position completely different when you have low energy versus high energy. So that actually is going to help me going forward, which is really cool because it's nothing I never thought of because I don't play Zarya. And I thought that all I had to pay attention to is the ult. So you're saying that when you have high energy, you're playing a little more aggressive. That helps a ton for us support players, because I know if a Zarya is going forward and she just ulted, she probably has a lot of energy. I still need to watch out for her instead of just writing her off. So that's pretty cool.
And it is. Now, when Zarya she does have visual indicators the more charged up she gets.
Yeah,
so she'll
of
be
course.
more red or more blue or whatever color her skin is.
Which is sometimes in the middle of the
But,
fray.
like, when
it's
you're
like
at
really
50,
hard to, yeah.
Like Zarya is mostly worthless below 30 energy, except for pushing off those bubbles and saving your teammates. But as far as like doing damage, butterflies for the most part.
Yeah.
But once she gets higher than that, she starts to, like, between 30 and 50, she isn't really lighting up yet, and it's not immediately apparent, but she's dangerous in that 30 to 50 range. The best Zaryas have on average like 35 to 40% average energy throughout a game, and that's insanely high. If you watch me, like we try to stay between 35 and 40 as our average, but it's not easy. The one thing I will say about positioning when you are charged high is at that point, you're one of your team's biggest assets, because you don't need to use your bubbles to gain energy. I think of Zarya in kind of 3 phases. You have energy building phase, where the only goal you're trying to do is pass bubbles on to gain energy. Energy maintaining, so you're just trying to stay above, ideally 40%, but, ideally you're sitting at 60 and above in like the perfect matches scenario. And then you have like your team protection phase, where it's not about you doing damage. It's about knowing that I've got to keep this Bastion alive so we can protect this point. I have to keep this Reinhardt alive for another second so that he can ultimate. I have to bubble this Pharah while she ultimates so that the damage that comes in lets her get through her full ultimate, right?
Which is huge. It can completely change a game if you somehow protect your Pharah while ulting, because she's one of the most easy stationary targets to kill when she's ulting, and a lot of people don't really plan on getting kills for her because it's so easy to throw a Helix rocket her way, because everybody runs Soldier these days. So like Zarya bubbling your Pharah and having her get her full ult off is huge, because even if she doesn't kill anybody, she's putting out a lot of damage. That's good to know. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You said, so like with your energy, you kind of see it in 3 phases when you start out the round, when to use primary and secondary fire. You say, do you ever have like key moments when you know that you're using your primary versus your secondary? Like, is there ever moments in the game where you're like, oh, I should be using my beam for this? Or, do you use your secondary when you're ulting? Like, how do you know when to use what?
So when I first started and was learning Zarya, I think one of the things I figured out last is when to use primary and secondary fire. I think it's one of the least consequential, but one of the the biggest things that differentiate a good Zarya, quote unquote, from a great Zarya is when to be primary firing and secondary firing. Secondary firing is, I think I've done the math right, is always going to do half the damage as your primary fire could do. So unless you're hitting 2 or more heroes,
then it doesn't.
And it doesn't. So like when I first started, when I would grab, I would primary fire. No joke. Every time. Like a casual. Don't do that. Obviously, unless there's one there.
I think we've actually played together. Yeah, when you first started playing Zarya, and I remember you learning this. I remember you figuring this out, because I remember seeing you laser or primary fire targets in your ults. And then I remember it clicking in your head, and I remember actually seeing you start to secondary into ults, and that was pretty cool. So that's okay. That makes sense.
And then on the flip side, I did this for a while, and I see Zaryas do this all the time, even in like Diamond. on a Reinhardt shield, like people will want to secondary fire instead of primary fire because it feels more impactful.
Like it would, oh yeah.
Even though
Yeah,
it's not. You're doing way more damage with your primary fire, unless there's people right behind it or right in front of it again that you can catch that splash
that are
damage.
taking the splash.
And so it's weird things like that to kind of figure it out. But as a general rule, the only time you're using secondary fire is when there's 2 or more targets. I usually say 3 because even when there's 2, usually you're wanting to focus one down, which pretty much only happens in ultimates and when they're out of range. If you're just not out of range for your primary beam to get there and you're just trying to launch, like there's a lot of great YouTube videos about how to get about 20% energy before the team even leaves the spawn room when you're on defense on hybrid and payload maps.
Yeah.
Because you can just set up where to click and then boom, just start slamming that and getting some of that initial energy down even from far away. So that's kind of how I think of primary and secondary fire. But it takes, again, awareness.
Yeah, no, that makes, like everything in Overwatch, everything takes awareness. Nothing is as simple as it seems. Even holding a Reinhardt shield, as easy as it seems to just hold that Reinhardt shield and play, and just stand there as a Reinhardt, everything in Overwatch takes attention. So that makes sense. Now that we've kind of talked about differentiating when you should use secondary versus the beam, when your ultimate, we've talked about that, kind of going into that. What do you look at when you're ulting? Because there's a lot. We were just talking about paying attention with the current meta and D.Va and defense matrix being so huge and it being so easy as a D.Va to eat that Zarya ult. What do you look for when you're ulting? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you cry when a D.Va matrix eats your Zarya ult?
So no joke. In the past 3 months, I've only had 1 D.Va eat my ult. But I've had about 4 Genjis deflect my ult, which is even worse.
I think that is a little worse.
I mean, it's way worse. I'll like lob it into the group because over the past few months, I've been trying to, because it's really obvious when a Zarya is playing forward, that they're either trying to get charged, they're fully charged and they're wrecking your team, or they're getting ready to place an ult. But if you can play like Sinatra does or like Spree, those dudes can like, pew, just launch it. And so it's trying to do that more from afar. And it's obvious when a D.Va's there, you're not going to risk launching it because that's going to get eaten almost every time. It's not so obvious that there's a Genji right there ready to deflect and make that happen.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. I was just about to say, all Overwatch players here, look here, we have KickedTripod. He's only had 1 D.Va matrix eat his orb, because that seems to happen a lot in these competitive plays. I've actually seen that happen a lot. But then you had to go on with the Genji reflecting it, which I feel like is way worse. It's such a bad feel. That's such a bigger feels badman, I think. So that's pretty interesting. But other than trying to dodge the Genjis and the D.Vas, what do you look for when you're trying to ult, positioning wise, timing, communication, all of that good stuff?
This is the most stressful part of my game. And I feel like as a Mercy, you can kind of empathize in the sense that a failed ultimate from someone like a Mercy or someone like a Zarya is gonna get you
it's a game changer.
Trashed on, number one, from your team.
Flamed,
and number
toxic,
2, it's Zarya's ultimate isn't fast in it how it builds up in most cases, because you're protecting and you're trying to do damage, and you don't want to be too far up because then you have to turn around to bubble your teammates, and it's a lot of movement. And so with a Zarya bubble, there's a lot of pressure to capitalize with a Zarya Graviton surge as much as you can. So the first thing is you have to be in the right position to make it happen. Too far back, you're lobbing it, the team gets out of the way. Too far forward, you're focused fire, your healers aren't in position to heal you, and stuff like that. So usually, like ideally when you can hold a corner, higher ground, or you're close to the team, but not the first person against a coordinated team. Like you're looking for that for positioning. You're communicating to your team. I'm looking for an opportunity to ult.
Yeah.
A lot of people think like, oh, just communicate when you're ult. Like, okay, I'm gonna ult. That's really easy for a soldier to say. You don't.
But with Zarya, I feel like you counter it or you add it. What's the word that I'm looking for? You synchronize it with someone else's ult. So they have to kind of get ready. For a Hanzo has to position, a Reinhardt has to position, but yeah.
Yeah, so usually you're comboing it with someone else. So you have to make sure that they're ready. But then you're also waiting for the enemy team to be just in the right spot. It's not like, oh, I'm soldier, I'm on the high ground, and Reinhardt doesn't have his shield. Time to go kind of thing. It's like, oh, they just all of a sudden dispersed. They saw me moving forward. They dispersed. I missed that window. I'm only going to get one. I have to back off. And so you can cause a lot of turmoil in your team's communications. So like, I'm like, hey guys, I'm looking for an opportunity to ult. I'll let you know when I'm throwing it, but I have it and I'm looking for it. Farah, are you ready? I'll bubble you.
Yeah.
Not in so many words, but over the course of 30 seconds, setting that up. And again, Zarya's ult is also like an initiator. So usually it's the first ult to go out, something that I did and Zarya's who haven't played a lot. You want to use it as like a panic button, like almost defensively. You can't do that. So there's a lot. Then you also have to look at the team comp because if there's a diva there, she can eat it. A Reinhardt shield can, block almost all the incoming damage. A Transcendence or a Lucio ultimate
I was just about to say,
isn't that something?
Yeah, you kind of have to know, like when the comp, like, oh, their Zenyatta probably has a trans or Lucio has an ult or defensive matrix. That's something that you probably have to like really, really work on. And that I feel like a lot of people when they're new to Overwatch, but even not necessarily when they've been playing this for a while, they're still not looking at the enemy composition because that can change when you want to ult a lot. Like if you see the Zenyatta die, you might not want to, maybe you necessarily don't want to hold on or maybe you necessarily don't want to ult because you're like, oh, we already got a pick. But as Zarya, that means you don't have to worry about a trans. So that's great. Even though there's only 5 people there, like that's still such a great opportunity. So yeah, that's a pretty good point. Paying attention to the enemy composition and what ults they have to combat the Zarya ult.
One of the biggest things that I think I find myself saying more often than not is get diva out of mech first.
Yeah.
Ideally. Now the cool thing is because you're a beam hero, your primary fire goes through diva's defense matrix. You're one of diva's best counters as far as doing damage to her when her matrix is up. And you can melt her pretty quick with some pretty decent energy. And, like sometimes it's almost worth it. A Graviton and a Transcendence. Number one, like a Farah will go through a trance if she's boosted.
Or you can also on a nade.
Or on a nade, exactly. So like there's ways to do it, but you need a coordinated team. But again, the ultimate phase is one of the most stressful parts, but it's also one of the most powerful ultimates in the entire game. So,
and I guess that kind of makes the communication part of when you're going to ult huge because if you're paying attention to the enemy composition, you know that they have a Zenyatta. You've been paying attention to how late in the battle it is. You know that they have a Transcendence. You telling your Ana, hey, I'm going to ult. Their Zenyatta has Transcendence. Save your nade. Can be the change between winning that fight and having it equalize out because the Transcendence couldn't be stopped.
Right.
So that's actually huge. Yeah, that's a really good point as a Zarya player to let your team know because, it's something as simple as just letting your Ana know not to nade so she has it for the trans. That's a pretty good idea. I think we've kind of hit all of the bases for Zarya, the first, second, third phases, her ultimate, her shields, everything like that. Other than all of that main stuff that you've kind of given a generalization over her, do you have any specific tips that I'm sure I feel like every player loves this section when they're getting interviewed
in the show notes.
Yes. Knowing the tips as from all of your experiences playing. So I'm sure you do. I'm kind of excited to hear these great tips from the amazing KickedTripod, the Zarya player himself.
Yes, I have a few. So the first is, unless you're focusing down like a support, your damage is best suited for beefy heroes. So they have huge hitboxes. Your damage is maximized. They're easier to track. Save heroes like Lucio or Zenyatta until last, unless you're focusing them down. Obviously, supports are important to focus down, but a lot of times that's the job of your damage dealers, and your job is to kind of wear down and exhaust the tanks. And so more often than not, I'm prioritizing especially shieldless tanks. Winstons are the worst. On an allied team and on an enemy team. Number one, an allied team, because they typically, like, it's really easy. Like when a Reinhardt charges, you really like to bubble them so that when they go in and they're taking that damage during the charge, you're just getting free charge, and he goes into and starts swinging his hammer at full health. However, Winston, when they jump, you want to bubble, and then they bubble right on top of that and take no damage, and you get no energy. It's a big pain in the butt. I talked about this before, but primary fire the Reinhardt shield, not secondary, unless splash damage is a factor. And aim for Reinhardt, even if you're shooting the shield, as best as you can, or basically aim through the shield. Pretend that the shield isn't there. If Reinhardt's shield
That's a good point, because he removes, you're already aiming, you don't have to readjust.
Yeah, so pretend the team's like, focus the Zenyatta, but you've got a Reinhardt in front of you. You're shooting at the Reinhardt shield, but you're aiming at the Zenyatta.
Right. That makes sense.
So then you're in
That's actually a really good tip. Not something you really think of with Zarya. I like that.
Thank
you. If you aren't listening or you aren't watching the podcast, John's doing a little happy dance. I don't think that he gets compliments on his tips that much.
Very often.
Everybody go compliment him at KickedTripod or twitch.tv/KickedTripod.
Okay, so BlizzPro Troll is trolling me in the chat. Thanks a lot, Shadow. Dang it. You can also gain a lot of initial energy on any map by knowing some key spots. Temple of a Noob. Basically, any time you're on defense, there are spots that you can sit and volley your secondary fire. And if you practice those a little bit, you're going to gain 15, 20 energy before it even starts, because you're going to alternate fire into 4 or 5 heroes, which is a lot of energy. Zarya also, so bubble priority and decision making is the most important part. I think that makes a lot of sense. Zarya can't get headshots, so aim for the widest part of the body and play around with her alternate fire and jump to get in places you wouldn't be able to get to. I think of especially on Volskaya Industries with her alternate fire and jump. You can actually get on top of that building that's in front of the first contest point. So you can kind of sit up there. And it's pretty neat.
It's kind of like Soldier's Helix, because there are a lot of tutorials on YouTube where you have those specific advantage spots where if you can get that Helix, you're going to be in such an advantage over the team. So that makes a lot of sense. You know that they're going to be coming through that hallway, or you know that you can get it over this ledge and into this room. Why not increase your average charge by 15 to 20? These are all tips that you don't have to be an amazing aimer to do. You just have the knowledge. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Also on my list, the anniversary skin is the best Zarya skin. So make sure, there you go. You heard it here first. Min-maxing. And unless you're saving in an ally or have nothing else to use it on, don't use your barriers on targets being attacked by Winston. I touched on this before. His damage output is low. You get very little. I want to say, don't quote me on this, I want to say that through the entirety of a bubble, if it's just him shooting a bubble, I believe it's something like 15 or 18 energy when the potential is 20. So I try to do that. Your primary fire goes through the Diva Matrix, so you are her counter in a lot of situations. I use her as almost always a priority target. When doing that, communicate to your Reinhardt when you're going to bubble them, or wait for them to fire strike before you bubble them to maximize the energy you gain and the damage you absorb. Your barrier eats entire splash damage. We talked about this before. Tracer ults, Diva ults, and can also block incoming damage coming into an ally or turret. So you can even block, you can block a Diva ult. You can save a Symmetra behind you without actually bubbling them if they're just standing right behind you. So it's pretty neat from that perspective. Communicate when your projected barrier is coming off of cooldowns so your allies know when they can play aggressively or when they can expect to do that. It also gets a lot of, like, sometimes you get some toxic people in chat and want to go, why did you bubble me, Zarya?
Yeah.
And that way, if you're communicating when your E-bubble is coming off of cooldown,
it kind of like reduces that.
Yeah, it reduces that. And it again, you might not have E-bubbled at the right time, but at least you communicated it. Especially with cooldown management, you're always going to mismanage your cooldowns at some point, at some time. I do, even the best players in the world miss ults and mismanage cooldowns, and that happens. But communicating that is really important. Work on Graviton, barrier your Pharah, let the Pharah ultimate. It's one of the best combos in the game, and it's almost always a team wipe. And make sure, look for Pharah's, Reapers, Soldiers, and Roadhogs to combo with as best you can. And then Zarya, Mei, and Reinhardt's ult do similar things. If you have multiple of these types of heroes, communicate how to stagger them. It's really annoying if you have a Mei freeze everybody and then you graviton everyone in one place. And it's just it's redundant. So communicate that. And sometimes too, Zarya cannot be the best hero. If you have a Reinhardt and a Mei, I won't go Zarya. I'll usually go Diva or Winston.
Go a different ult or a different character that has an ult that can optimize their ults instead of just trying to add another one. Because I guess that Mei, Reinhardt, and Zarya ults don't really do a lot if you can't follow up the damage with them. So if you just have 3 crowd control ults and no control over the crowd, then yeah, it's probably a wise decision. So that's a good tip.
So Panda Nataku says, have you found it okay when Zarya and Orisa play together, since her hitbox is easy to hit by the other team? I don't like playing with Orisa because she can't control when her barrier goes down. So as far as putting an E barrier on her, it's not very valuable. I love playing against an Orisa because they're projectile. And so even if you're far enough away, even if she stops shooting at you, you end up gaining just a bunch of energy because those projectiles are slow enough. I eat Orisas for lunch. That's it. That's my list. Woo.
Sounder.
Time is money, friends, and we're almost flat broke.
There it is. That's my sounder. Woo. How did I do?
I think it's a good sounder.
I enjoyed the Mercy,
show.
But
I still learned something about Zarya and how she positions when she has high energy. So that's still something that's going to infinitely help me as a support who only has 200 HP. So even I learned something, and I'm not a Zarya main. So that was pretty cool.
Hey,
and it's pretty cool to be on the opposite side of everything too. You answering the questions, me asking and kind of leading the conversation. I enjoyed it.
I was going to say the same thing. It's really nice to be able to speak and not have to always think about what question am I going to ask.
Where am I leading? Yeah.
So now you know. Cool. A little bit of a knight in my shoes, because we never got you to host the full show. The time that Sideshow and Jamerson came on. So
yeah, that's very.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, chat. Thank you for everyone listening at home, watching on YouTube, watching on the Twitch VODs. We really hope that you enjoyed kind of this in-depth look at Zarya, our preview for Overwatch Contenders groups, and just getting caught up on everything going on Overwatch this week. So thank you so much for that. If you have ideas, comments, questions you'd like to have read or responded to on or off air, send us an email to thepayload@blizzpro.com. Or if you really like this show, you can actually support the show at patreon.com/Payload Podcast. We do want to thank our Grandmaster supporters: Shadow, J.A., Carell, Liam O., Stuart J., Leon Z., Jacob S., and Adam W. Thank you so much for your support of the show. Anything helps, from $1 a month all the way up to whatever you want to give, cup of coffee a month or whatever. We have awesome perks. We're actually going to be doing our patron-only game night, and it's going to be Monday now, right? That's what we decided?
Yes, we did switch it, to Monday. And I think we switched the time, did we not? Was it the same time?
Should we just say 7
we'll have to go
PM
in
Pacific time?
Yeah.
We're going to say that on there, 7 p.m. Pacific time.
All right, Twitch, on Monday. So Monday is the 19th.
Yes.
So
we'll be there playing. Patrons have guaranteed spots for part of it. And then any viewers that we have room over, even if you're not a patron, there's still a good chance that you might be able to slide in. But again, you can support us at patreon.com/Payload Podcast. What do we got going on for iTunes reviews, Rosh?
iTunes reviews. Yeah. 5-star reviews help us a ton on a week-to-week basis. I feel like I always have a slur here every week. And if you'd like to show your support for the show, they're incredibly easy to leave. Thank you bunches to Gizmozo and Jcoff77 for having relatively easy names. I always enjoy seeing really easy names to read out under the iTunes review section each week. And also for leaving a 5-star review. And to everyone else who has previously left one, thank you. We appreciate it. Again, it helps us so much. If you haven't done so yet, you can do so at iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and Google Podcasts.
Woo! All right, well, let's go ahead and do it. Jimmy was at E3 this week, so make sure to follow Jimmy at DJTyrant on Twitch and Twitter. And check out his podcast, Heroes Power Hour, on BlizzPro.com. And Rosh, what about you? Shoutouts for the week, and where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me over at twitch.tv/OKIt'sRosh. You can also find me at twitter.com/F2K_OKIt'sRosh. Don't really have a lot of shoutouts because I haven't been streaming this last week. But I posted in Discord, I am looking to get into doing placements with viewers, listeners, friends, and just make this a fun season about building the community. So shout out to anybody who wants to get on those. I have a lot of placements to do, so I have a lot of opportunities. They'll mostly be random in the Discord, where I'll just randomly say, add everyone in the channel. Does anybody want to do placements? I'm doing them right now. I have 10, placements to do. We can totally queue together. So make sure you join the Discord channel if you haven't. Otherwise, yeah, I will see you guys at the 2 links that I shouted out before for Twitch and Twitter.
Awesome. As for me, I did want to shout out our Discord community as well. We've had a lot of awesome conversations, and it also kind of helps fuel creativity for ideas for the show. So thank you to every single one of you in our Discord. And we actually crossed 100 members already in just 3 weeks. So I think we're at like 111 when I checked yesterday. So we might even have more.
Awesome.
But come join us. It's fun. I promise. We don't bite. And hopefully your knowledge and our knowledge and other members' knowledge can all pile together, make us all better at Overwatch, have more fun, be more involved, and be more in tune. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at KickedTripod, or just go to my blog at KickedTripod.com. That is going to do it for us. Thank you for tuning in to episode 71 of The Payload. We record live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. Come hang out with us, and don't make sure to get your awesome, or don't make sure to forget to get your awesome Payload t-shirt, just like the one Rosh has on, at store.blizzpro.com. This has been episode 71. We'll see you next week.